We need to look at the actual conversion, the signal, the real intent moment, and decide, was it really an intent moment?
One of the things that we spoke about is the majority of AI tools now fail. Upwards of 38% of AI tools and AI initiatives fail.
You have to onboard AI the same way you onboard your people, and you have to train it, and you have to update it, and give it the current best practices.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bridge the Gap podcast powered by Revenue Reimagined. Today is a very special episode for a couple of reasons. We'll start with our guest, Austin Myers, who's VP of Sales and Marketing at SalesAI, a go-to-market leader who spent more than 15 years leading sales, ops, CS, and go-to-market teams through every kind of high-growth chaos imaginable. He scales teams across healthcare, SaaS, and tech, served as COO and CRO for startups and growth companies, and now helps organizations remove one of their biggest barriers, which is, as we all know, capacity. We're going to talk about what really breaks go-to-market systems, why strategy isn't the culprit, and how AI can finally give sales and ops teams real leverage instead of more noise. That's number one, and Austin Myers, welcome to the show. But number two is everyone sees a different face here today. We are up leveling. We have pushed baby in the corner. Dale is away, and we have the third co-founder of Revenue Reimagined with us co-hosting the show today. Another very special guest, Mr. Jake Rennie. Thank you both for spending your Friday afternoon with me.
Thanks for having me.
Let's not get the guests too comfortable with this, Adam. I don't know if they're going to want Dale to come back, so I'll do my best not to give 100% today.
I feel like that's what I do every. No, I'm kidding.
Well, Austin, hey, welcome to the show, man. We're thrilled to have you. You know, I think to get things kicked off, Adam was talking about the capacity problem, and let's jump into that initially with this thought around you cannot scroll on social. You can't, open up your inbox. You can't sign into LinkedIn without hearing about the discussion of AI and the impact that it's having on sales teams, revenue, operations, reducing costs as a whole. And the pressures of AI in organizations is creating conversation around how can we get more for less? And as companies are trying to figure out how to implement efficiencies with AI and experiment, and let's not get there yet, but even the initial failures with those experimentations, the idea still and the expectation is we need more, we need greater capacity. So the question, I guess I would lean into you first, as companies are trying to figure out how to get more or less and starting to try to scale back while not properly implementing AI strategy. Where do you see some of the greatest go-to-market failures are stemming from capacity and not necessarily bad strategy as a whole?
Yeah. So capacity, I've seen this time and time again, and I feel like I'm going to be preaching to the choir here, especially with Adam and Jake and Dale. And we've had these observing how go-to-market teams have done things to date, even today in the age of AI. The irony is we talk about capacity as a problem because we say do more with less, but the default behavior we keep seeing over and over and over is to just do more with more. And so the problem that we're seeing in the world of AI, it's just sometimes it's history repeating itself over and over again. Some of the challenges that even we've wrestled with in our own product, but also out there in the market and talking is people are treating AI the same way that we treated email sequencers and call power dials. We keep looking at the volume game and we over quantify on math. So the capacity problem, as we've looked at it, it's less of a mathematical problem because the ways of doing things from the early 2000s and even in the 90s and even 2010s and literally last year was how do we just make the math work at a larger scale rather than looking at the moments that actually convert. The capacity problem is a discipline problem because we're not going back to the specific moments that are, number one, just the high converting moments. And number two, the most important moments that we actually need to scale and optimize for. I could use parallels like cold email, right? Cold email, we evolved into the sequencers like Apollo, and because we just fell into that as a result of trying to scale manual email. And now tools like Smart Lead and Sales Loft and Outreach, everything kind of blew
all
up.
broken every. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Listen, I think Manny Medina is an incredible human being. I think Outreach had its place. I think Sales Loft with Kyle Porter had its place. But I think that from what they were supposed to be to what they turned into, and now with some of these other platforms, they have destroyed sales. Go send 50,000 emails. Go send 100,000 emails, and we get a sub 1% response rate. And that's great because you got some people to respond. It's everything that's wrong with selling.
Yes. And that's what's breaking it. And so we've just taken AI and we just kept scaling it, right? And so the capacity to just kind of tie up the thought, it's the capacity problem we're dealing with is because we've never kind of gone through and fixed the core. And, Kevin Dorsey, says this all the time, like sales killed sales. And that's a big problem. Marketing is kind of killing marketing. And so the problem we're dealing with capacity is usually because we are addicted to scale. We're actually not looking at the highest converting moments and then saying, how do we do more of that and facilitate those moments? And it comes from discipline, from just we love our pipeline created, our deals created, but we forget, like, how do you just build meaningful connection? And you don't just go piss off an entire TAM with with just this one size fits all, or even this highly personalized targeted approach. That burns and weighs on the capacity. And so what we often find is, man, conversion rates are down. So let's go and just figure out how we fill that with AI. And right now, what we've even gone through and what we're trying to even kind of teach the world here at SalesAI is you don't need like this limitless capacity. What you need is just focus and obsession around your buyers and your prospects and your audience, and then scale the conversations that matter there. Scale the moments that facilitate a good conversation in a high converting moment, rather than just trying to find it and capture demand. You have to be able to manufacture demand. And that's the capacity problem. Like, we need to be talking about is the moments that matter, not just pure operational, hours and minutes in the day.
Right. So what you're saying, Austin, is and which is funny because it seems counterintuitive to what we come across most, leaders are out there doing, is smashing the more button doesn't work, is what you're saying. Right. If right, like A plus B equals C, people are thinking, well, if I do more of A and I do more of B, then I'll get more of C. But as we try to get, I guess, let's hold off on the moments that matter conversation first, because I think that's spot on. But what I want to know is how can teams identify the warning signs of overloading their teams, right? Like sales, CS, ops, they're drowning, right? In the more with more problem. What are the warning signs?
Yeah. So I think it comes to, we'll call them the sub-level metrics, things that are under the surface. And I'll give you a practical example, because this is something that we've really wrestled through recently. MQLs. We need more MQLs, right? The classic. This is classic, right? Like, everyone had this problem.
Jake and I have very strong thoughts about MQLs. We talk about it weekly.
And we love them.
The leads sucked. Sales leads are terrible. Yes, marketing, we're just missing more we just need to work harder. And what we found was it was actually an intent problem. Half of the leads that we're dealing with and calling MQLs, it was a bad measurement. And as we took a step back, half of them, they were just low intent. They were taking an action that we failed to recognize as they actually wanted to talk to us. And when we started digging in, the ones that were low quality, and they still would book sometimes. They would even go into the pipeline, and we were converting them at a 1% rate. So what was the default behavior? Hit the phones, call them, reach out, text, email, noise. And we had to just pull back and say, we don't need more. We don't need to work harder. And we need to look at the actual conversion, the signal, the real intent moment, and decide, was it really an intent moment? We found ourselves even asking some of the prospects, hey, when you did this, were you in the mindset? Because we realized even some of the stuff we were measuring was broken. And so I think when it comes to, it can be people that are in pipeline, this can be post-sales pipeline, this can be, just top of the funnel. We have to actually tie the right behaviors to intent and signal moments, because right now we've kind of taken the playbook of the past and just said, a form fill or a download or clicked or visited a page, that was intent, but that doesn't always translate to intent. And so we have to be willing as go-to-market leaders to let go of the assumptions and the playbooks that we knew. I even struggle with this. I've known these things for the last 15 years. They worked, but they're actually not working anymore. And we have to be able to let go of what we know and get back into founder mode and just ask, talk to customers, to prospects, to buyers. That's what we've been missing in the go-to-market world, is getting back to founder mode.
So I agree with you, but I think, and Jake and I talk about this all the time, there are so many marketing teams and marketing leaders now that are so focused on, well, I provided MQLs and shit, dude, we're up from 476 to 864 MQLs, and your sales team just might not be able to close them. And I think that narrative is so ass backwards. Somewhere, some way, someone came up with this concept of an MQL and made a lot of marketers a lot of money, because that's how they were metric and that's how they were compensated. Yet us sales folks still have to close deals to get paid. But I digress. We got MQLs, so we're all good. I think as we look at the modern way to build pipeline, and the modern way to grow revenue, we're starting to see that shift. And I think the most progressive CEOs, the founder mode CEOs, if you will, are starting to focus on what matters. And I think this is where AI, helps a little bit. But most AI tools, and it's funny, so Jake is back in Utah, but was in Miami with us this week. We were leading an AI event for one of our banking partners. And one of the things that we spoke about is the majority of AI tools now fail. Upwards of 38% of AI tools and AI initiatives fail. One study was as high as 46%. And I think that's because they are built for, we'll call it between 3 to 5% of users, which are like the power users. So when you're looking at AI and how AI could help with capacity, how do you address this so that we're not using AI tools that only the best of the best could use, whether that be an N8N, whether that be just again, any of the complicated tools that's like, oh, I'm going to send you this 47 node N8N workflow and you're going to do great. I mean, sure, if you're a coder.
Yes. I think there are a lot of tools in the market and a lot of platforms that are coming out that are going low code, right? I scrolled through my feed and I just got fed up seeing, everyone was showcasing their 500 million step N8N workflow. It was all the rage. All the cool kids were doing it and we all got FOMO.
Comment workflow and I'll give you my secret for free.
Yeah. Yes. If I saw one more of those, I was ready to just, delete my LinkedIn. But I think what we found was we had to take a step back. Mm-hmm. This is about, 4 months ago, and realizing most people don't actually know how to prepare for AI. So much so that we even kind of developed an AI readiness assessment for people to just figure out, we're an AI company, right, as SalesAI, but we had to be honest with ourselves and say, are customers even ready? And so there are foundational things. Elephant in the room, we talk about it a lot, but it's data at the core. I mean, garbage in, garbage out. And it's really good at coming up with context. It's really bad at giving you the right context. So an example, there are holes in your data. It's going to fill the hole, but probably with the wrong thing. And so, we're shocked when it's hallucinating all of a sudden, but we're acting like our data wasn't completely broken to begin with. And so we find people need to go back to the core and address the data problem. That's one pillar that is just straightforward. The second is a process problem. And I say a process problem, most people actually didn't have a defined process for how things should be done. And so, the actual system that needs to happen, and sequence of events, people lacked process. And then we went into, the MIT study that, we turn off our brains the more we interact with ChatGPT. Go-to-market did the same thing. So we turn off the brains and say, AI can just run it, even though I don't have a process. So, and then the third pillar is onboarding. We onboard humans, and the three of us, we've brought on people in our teams, and we obsess, right? We listen to the calls, we read the emails, we coach every day. But then AI, we just decided we're not going to do that. And it should just plug and play, and I'll spot check it a couple times. The three disciplines are data. You gotta have really good, clean data and understand how you manage the data. Number two, you need to have very clearly articulated, defined processes with the right models. And third, you have to onboard AI the same way you onboard your people, and you have to train it, and you have to update it and give it the current best practices. And people are forgetting that, we need to treat AI as part of your org chart. So how you onboard, how you train, how you upskill. Those three things we found have been missing. Even in customers that failed on our product, and other go-to-market leaders I've talked to that have failed in their implementations, it was usually one of the three or all three. One of those things was missing, and they completely failed and botched. They just botched the implementation because they weren't ready.
People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results. Just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I can tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
And that's what's failing, is the companies that are winning, they were ready. They've prepared. They've been AI forward. The ones that are falling behind, it's because they never took the proper steps. And those three things are the steps go-to-market teams in every company need to take now to make sure they can incorporate AI and be part of the top 3 to 5% power users.
It's when you talk about AI being part of the org chart, I think this was one of my biggest takeaways from the event we did this week. And I'm glad to hear that we weren't the only people who were talking about it, because we did not prep you. You were not at said event. But we spent, God, Jake, probably 15, 20 minutes talking about AI being part of the org chart.
There are people who are having people on their teams managing what they're calling like AI employees or AI agents, but as an employee. I mean, this is a trend that we're starting to see more and more.
Yep.
And Play kind of coined the term go-to-market engineer, right? Like they created an entire category. But there are a lot of that kind of idea, right? Is, go-to-market engineer is the fun new thing, and whatever your stance is, right? For anyone listening here, you might love it, you might hate it. It's like pineapple on pizza. But the idea
Do you like pineapple on your pizza?
I kind of, it depends on who I'm talking to and how much, ask my in-laws, yes. If I'm by myself, no.
My heart's broken.
I like the concept though, like of the three pillars, right, Austin? Like, yeah. I think that
Jake's like, Adam, shut up.
No, I mean, look, like it depends on the joint for real. Pizza,
yeah.
What's gonna, like, it depends on the pizza place, man. Some can pull it off, Most can't. Definitely not a dominance, right?
And
Go ahead.
no. And you're pushing on like whatever people want to call that role, right? It's really, I would define the go-to-market engineer role that Clay has kind of create that category. That's really what the SDR role should have evolved into, right?
Sure.
And somehow we've called it both. We found that skill set, you're really well prepared. If you're already in that mode, you have the foundations to start layering in AI because you're already thinking in terms of data, process, training, and then you're validating and you're kind of treating it like a growth lab. The same thing for organizations. So if you're like stuck in the past and you're trying to think about, can it replace what this job does? You're probably already behind the eight ball, but how do you layer it in sequentially to all the different jobs that somebody does? That's where the magic is. And that's, that's where companies need to start going to. And we think about replacing just the headcount entirely, but we need to think about replacing the specific like jobs and actions that occur in the day.
You're touching on an interesting point here. Like what with history, like proving, and Clay's a perfect example. We often see when new technology comes in or new process comes in, and specifically around technology, oftentimes we start to create the roles around the process, right? We hire for what we believe is the right process or function, and yet it seems to be quite opposite. As we evolve and it just becomes part of what we do, we start to then ingrain that process in the role, and it becomes kind of a flip. But right now, like with CRM, we saw that, and then it's just become overall a portion of a revenue operations function. We saw that with Clay. All of a sudden, there were these Clay architects coming out of everywhere. Everyone just felt like, well, we should be hiring a role to solve for the process. And instead of just like making it ingrained in what the function is for the role that is there today. And now we're seeing this, with AI, nobody really knows like where it should be owned. And it just tends to be a misconception. I'm curious from your perspective and in what you guys see, what are other common big misconceptions? Like what's one major common misconception you all see about implementing AI and go to market as a whole across organizations?
The biggest misconception is AI can replace an entire job function.
Yeah.
So the term started to use is the job stack, right? Like if you think about, we say full stack developers, right? There's full stack SDRs, full stack AEs, full stack marketers. There are different layers of the tools that they use in the jobs that they perform. So as an SDR, as an example, AI SDRs don't work. They don't, right? Like you go into the market and you ask, and everyone's like, no, doesn't work. Because the whole job cannot be replaced by AI is not there yet. Sure, right. We're on the brink of AGI. No, we're every time we see it, it feels like it's a bigger colossal failure because we're assuming it can just do all the things that a human is trained and knows to do and reason and do all the tasks. What AI is really good at is when we narrow it down to one process, one job, and you can start layering those in. So in a specific example is a follow-up no-show. Great. If you have a defined process, defined way of working, AI can replace that. But it's not going to replace the entire SDR or the entire AE, but it can start taking those just those slivers of processes, and eventually you're powering up and leveling up the humans. But that's the biggest misconception is this job is AI. We need to start thinking in terms of breaking down the tasks and what we're trying to do. The processes and actions can be replaced by AI when they're defined correctly.
So where
makes a ton of sense. No, I'm just like, I like you summed it up well.
Yeah. Austin, where are you as a leader? I'm curious because the majority of folks who listen to the show, founders, VP level, C level, where are you using AI personally as a sales and marketing leader? Where are you getting the most bang for your buck with AI? And then I'd love to know, to double click on that, what AI you are using.
Absolutely. Many different tools. In my day-to-day, I've been nerding out over Atlas, the browser. I've automated 4 different things in my morning routine. The way I think and reason and dashboards and data I look at and pull data from this thing and start writing. I've automated a full hour of my morning.
That's awesome.
Just do in browser actions I take. And it's really cool. TLDR, you can have it take control and do things in the background. So I have one monitor up that it's performing actions here, and I have a different monitor where I'm doing other work while it's just living in the background. The second thing that for me as a leader, I'm going to give a shout out here, attention. I live and die by attention. It gives
you and us both.
100%. And the reason is in the past, the term, we all know this one, you can't scale yourself. If I had $1 for every time my CEO told me that, well, now we can. I can give my team the very kind of Austin GPT. What's the coaching I would receive on these things? It's open source. And so they know, here's what I can improve. I don't have to sit down and go through. And then the times that I do coach and go through that, it's even higher value because now we're meeting in context. We know the gaps. We know how to upskill and see if training is translating to better performance. Another thing I live and die by is definitely ChatGPT. Obviously I use it every day in workflows and automating even some of the tools that I use every day. So a lot of unstructured data that I can move back and forth into.
Do you play between some of the models? Like, will you go from GPT to Claude or Grok, or like, have you stuck to GPT? And I'm curious how you go back and forth, and perhaps even like which your model of
Claude
choice.
can actually do PowerPoint as of this morning, and that actually does it well.
Claude, I love Claude for slide creation and just natural language. I feel Claude kind of writes better, and it can match my tone a lot better in how I write. ChatGPT, I think, helps kind of synthesize and reason a lot better with what I've created to. Grok, I love for research because Grok kind of does its own thing. It doesn't really fully depend on the Google, search API. It actually searches more than the first 10 things. And so I use Grok heavily for research. And then Gemini, because we use the G Suite, use Gemini a ton. So I think each tool for its own, the job to be done. I'll use each one for the biggest power lift. But then the biggest tool, is our own with SalesAI, for AI calls and just conversations, like just contextual conversations with prospects and with customers and facilitating the journey through natural language. Those are the biggest ones I use. I mean, every day as a leader and kind of lean into. And it's not just time saved; it's revenue driven, but I free myself up so much more to actually do the work than look for the work I need to do. So it helps surface all the stuff to the top, and then I can start 9 a.m. pushing on things rather than looking through dashboards and searching for the work that I need to start doing. So I shouldn't have to work to find my work. That's one piece of feedback I heard from a user one point in time. Yeah.
I like that. You shouldn't have to work to find your work.
Yes. And that's what AI definitely does so well for me. But how about you guys? What am I not using? What are you guys finding the most value, or what's a nugget that you found that you're like, if every founder just knew this thing, it would like be a game changer?
I'll give one first just because it's top of mind up on my screen. My favorite tool at the moment is Gamma. I think that when it comes to creating impactful slide presentations, especially with their new updates, I'll say it here because I would say it in the meeting. I'm going to be in California in a week for an executive committee meeting for one of our clients. And I literally took all of my notes and a bunch of stuff, put it into Gamma and created my 25-point presentation. Do I need to tweak it? Yes. But is it 90% there that I would ship it and be comfortable with it? Hell yeah. I think they've done an incredible job of that product for $20 a month.
I love it. And for those, and I agree, I love Gamma. For those of us that are not the creative brains, I tried, like, we use Canva and marketing and all that stuff. And my product marketer was like, oh Lord, like, here, you got the body of this is right. It just let me make this
like shit. Jake,
so
what about you, man? What else do you love?
Go for it. It's so the funnest one by far now for creative processing is the combination of open art to create characters, and then taking those characters and kind of scenes and using VO3. I like VO3 little bit better than Sora to create videos with.
Yeah.
So we actually will use it for ad creatives and just things that are, video, and not using it to spoof that, hey, this is humans. This is AI, but it's like the fun creative element. And, instead of just using stock footage, we can actually go to the level of creativity we want for a certain video and event promotion and all that fun stuff. So that has been
I haven't done video at all.
Okay, if you haven't, would 10 out of 10 recommend. Open art for character generation, and you can get character consistency. VO3 using its flow is what Google gives you to use to play it on top of VO3, and you can just roll through. It's the simplest tech stack, and it's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you learn, it unlocks a whole level of creativity. I used to be big on Mid-Journey. Sometimes you can do Mid-Journey. I don't use it quite as much. I like a character, but you can start in Mid-Journey, create your scene, and then use VO to actually bring it to life. So that one's been really huge for like video and things that look different, especially for LinkedIn content, long form YouTube. Just it's a different way, and it unlocks just looking different because, we both know Jared Robin, and there's one thing that, the conversations we have every day is like, how do we just get away from the sea of sameness? And instead of using AI to look like everything else and scale that, how do we actually use it to look very different and just delightfully different? So that's what we use. Nerding out on those platforms.
It's funny though, like you kind of in the process of this conversation, you kind of bringing up a I think a worthy issue or worthy topic. Like it's all these subscriptions, it's actually expensive, right? Like it adds up. If you're going to be paying whatever $20-$30 a month for one, you're going to be paying the same for Claude. You're going to be paying for Gamma, then you're going to be paying Theo. Like this adds up, and I don't even know if we're realizing how much we're paying even out of pocket for like these playgrounds that we have, and all to produce what? Like, is there actual like a return on some of this playing that we're doing? And the funny thing is, like, I think you can actually draw a parallel to what is happening in go-to-market right now. Like we're seeing there's a lot of excitement with the playground of AI and what people like the belief of the art of possible of what we can do. And so there's a lot of experimentation to then get what, like our partner Dale likes to talk about this concept of like the productivity paradox. Like, because we're so involved in these tools and testing and playing, like, it feels productive because we're busy and we're active. Are we getting somewhere? Like, and I guess what would be one piece of advice for you to those listeners who are feeling that pain right now, saying, shit, like, we've tried a lot of cool ideas, very few have really proven an ROI. What feedback would you give there?
So it comes back to jobs to be done. What I've heard a lot and observed in the market is like, there are a bunch of edicts and there's all this like pressure of like, we have to be using AI. Guys, put AI into this process. And so in this rush, and like, we're really curious, we've amidst all the scrutiny, the way that we buy every other platform, right? We go back and we're like, here's the way I buy SaaS. I'm looking for this thing, and I have criteria, and I have a committee and an approval process and an ROI justification. But then with AI, we're just like, let's just roll the dice, right? And so the buyer behavior I've seen with AI platforms like that are just scoop it up, try it, and then there's no end in sight to measure, like, what were we even trying to do with this? And so it just was an attempt to play with it. And so I think just laddering all the way back, we need to be honest with ourselves before we do that. Because I've even had to wrestle with that here lately. I'm like, what am I trying to do? I need to just pause before I hit the pay now button. If I know what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to solve, I need to just define some sort of metric, maybe not ROI on the front end, but if the metric I need to measure and move. And if I know what metric I'm trying to move with that, then I can layer back and say, do I have, when it comes to AI readiness, do I have a process? Do I need to think about a process? Can I give it the right data depending on the type of tool? And then can I train it and train it on an ongoing basis? And so those 3 pillars again, that's the discipline we have to have when we're buying AI tooling. Otherwise, it just turns into kind of figuring out as we go. And, we can't MacGyver the whole thing and shoot from the hip with every single tool, especially when you're missing those 3 pillars. You're doomed to fail, no matter your creativity.
But that's why every initiative is failing, candidly.
That's right.
Well, we know
in my
at
opinion,
least 70% are failing is what we're seeing, right? Out there on the
fair enough.
It's high enough.
All right,
Yeah.
we are coming up on time, which means we need to shift over to some rapid fire questions. So Austin, here's the rules. No one follows them, but I'm obliged to give them per contractual terms. I'm just going to give up to you. 10 words or less to each question. Otherwise, every word you go over is $100 I take out of Jake's distributions when I do them next week.
Oh, I'm doing a for sure. All right. Okay.
All right. What's one GTM role you think is undervalued right now?
Product marketing.
I like it.
In the context, proper customer journeys.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to skip over the next one because I think we touched on it enough. I'm going to go to this other one. What's one bad leadership habit you have had to unlearn in your career?
Ooh, good one.
Don't ask questions with expectations from my team. I'm going to go past 10 words here,
You're
but
fine.
To ask questions to unlock creativity. It's a principle I just learned here, over the last year and about just like the way I was leading with my expectations on the team and the way I would ask questions. So it stifled creativity. So instead, layering back, ask questions that are open-ended and are purposely aimed at unlocking creativity. And a specific example is instead of asking, why did this fail? Shift into what did you learn and how do we grow and do this better next time? It's been a big learning habit for me. Yeah.
I like it. I like that a lot. What's a system or process every go-to-market org should kill today, right now? You get off this, you're done listening to this podcast on the way into your office. What do you kill right now?
Blasting 100,000 cold emails across the entire TAM.
Amen. There are no wrong answers, but that is the only right answer right now. Solid. Okay. What's a framework, a book, or a mentor that has shaped your leadership that just like first it comes to mind?
Play bigger.
Yeah. Play bigger.
I like it.
It shapes that, like, no matter where you are, you can go and define an entire category. Like, you can create a category, define it, but there's strategy. It doesn't just fall into your lap. That has influenced the way I think across every org. All right, that was like 50 words. So Jake, I guess that's like 5 grand. All right, we're cooking.
All right, last one, Austin. What's one thing go-to-market leaders should stop apologizing for?
Being bold.
I like that.
We get so afraid of like being direct and bold and like ourselves.
Yeah.
And injecting our personality, and instead we revert back to just corporate jargon. We all do it, and we're afraid of, when we get a little bit of backlash, that's okay. Like, we have to know our ICP and our personas and the way they communicate, and we have to be clear with our personality, and speak to them. That's like, we are for the ICP, and I think sometimes we apologize to the entire world for trying to be who we are as an org. in every go-to-market team, and then we just regress into vanilla bleh. We got to be, so we don't need to apologize for being bold and being for our audience. So be for somebody, not for everyone.
I love it. Austin Myers, SalesAI, thanks for joining the show, man.
Thank you, guys.